Well, I think that I've been in town for about 25 years as a business owner. We do have a tree service, we're arborists, and the town has been absolutely delightful to me. Some 13, 14 years ago when we had that October storm, I said to myself, whoa, what can I do? Because I hired like 30 people there was so much work, and there was a pool company in my building. They said, hey, Rick, we're out of work. I said, well, you're all working now.
Yeah.
So I put them all to work, and I said, what can I do for the community? Nobody had any electricity. They had no power. So I put a big sign out in front of the building to say, free firewood, keep the family warm. And people came in by droves. We just gave them all the firewood. Everything that I had was gone probably within a week. And I was happy to do so as part of trying to be a responsible business owner in town. What can you do in times of crisis to help people out? And at the same time, there was a woman that came from across the street with her 2 children to say that we just want to warm up because we have no electricity. And I had generators going the whole time. And so I said, come on over. And as a matter of fact, I have a studio in there where I do all my artwork. I don't have much, but at least I have heat and a shower and a kitchen that you're more than welcome. So she stayed for 2 days. And then about a week or so later, or 2 days after actually, the electricity came back on. And everything was fine. We were still out there doing a lot of work. I get a phone call from the building inspector saying that we're getting reports that you have a woman living in your place and we have to get in there because that's not allowed. And I said, well,
2 days?
It's in the middle of an emergency. She was cold with her children, and I let her stay in my building because it was warm. And I have a shower there, and I have a kitchen, and I have electricity.
It was only for a couple of days.
Whatever it was. And then that started a whole issue with the town. And actually it was, and I said to him, what does the zoning for the building inspector have anything to do with what happens in this building? And then that started up with the zoning enforcer shut me down, gave me a cease and desist, and saying that I was operating an illegal contractor's yard. So I had to hire an attorney. And we got that back in there once we proved that there was a pool company there for 20 years. There was another contractor there for X amount of years. There was a flower drying company upstairs. There was a pesticide. So for many years prior to me, that building had always been used for commercial issues. And then I had to contend with the building inspector, the fire marshal, and they came after me. And they came after me with a vengeance. So I said, okay, well, how do we work this out? I went to the first selectman at that time, and he said, let them in and we'll work it out. Well, I let them in and they gave me countless citations. So I said, okay, I'll work on each one. So we went through the list, and every time I fixed 2, they added 10 more. Then I fixed 10, they added 20 more. And it was just countless. And then I was renting the property in the back from a gentleman that was in his 90s. And the conservation gentleman sent him a letter about me putting wood chips in the so-called wetlands. So they went to an older gentleman in his 90s to try to get to me. Well, that's when the gloves came off. That's when I went into town hall and I told the first selectman, now you're going to know who I am. So we started up. I called my town attorney, not a town attorney, a civil rights attorney, what's going on here. And because by that time I had already had the cease and desist lifted, so I was back to operating again, but I had to contend with the town officials. So I also called the state fire marshal and the state building inspector, which came in, and they overruled the town attorney, the town fire marshal and the town building inspector, which were being used as a tool against a citizen that provided jobs to people in town. So we actually filed a federal lawsuit, or threatened to file a federal lawsuut, and that's when they backed off. Everything was fine. I went back to being who I was. The town left me alone, and I moved on. And life has been good ever since. So it was about 5 years ago when the whole issue was coming about hemp, and it was coming into town, and they were going to have a pilot program. So I went into town hall and I spoke with Melissa Mack, which was the town attorney. Wonderful. She treated me
First
with.
selectman.
Did I say town attorney?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She's an attorney too, but I meant first selectman. And she was wonderful. She treated me with respect. I was absolutely shocked, and I told her what I wanted to do, that I was going to invest well over $1 million. And they rolled up the carpet and treated me with respect. I followed all the rules. I did what I needed to do. The Ned Lamont came in and signed a pilot program into law in my buildings, so it was doing quite well. And then they started talking about doing the real McCoy, which was the marijuana. And for people to understand that the hemp and marijuana is the exact same plant. The only difference between hemp and marijuana is the THC content. So if the THC is below 0.3, that's your hemp, and if it's above 0.3, that is your marijuana. So when we process through our machines, well, it comes out at 3-4%. We're already in the cannabis industry. So I said, oh, this is great. Now I can go in there and see if I can get licensed to run the whole marijuana facility, because I have close to 40,000 square feet. Well, this is where I ran into a problem, because Melissa Mack was no longer there. So it was new leadership that took over, and they said no. I said, well, it's the same thing. So they forced me to go to planning and zoning, in which I did. And there was no opposition. My immediate neighbors came to testify on our behalf, and nobody opposed it. Because at this time, when high school kids or college kids, anybody wants to get out and go into the real world and start to work, it was an ideal place to come work at our place with union wages, because I was the first one to sign with the labor movement that people can go in there, the unions can come on in, and we can all work together and make sure we have a good living wage. And well, the planning and zoning said no. And planning and zoning also added an ordinance on odor. If you can smell the marijuana from the property line, you have to shut down operations. It's illegal. First of all, you cannot discriminate against odor. But whatever, that's another issue. But they said no. So then I hired an attorney, the best attorneys in Connecticut, and we said, okay, we're going to write a letter to the zoning enforcer on his opinion. And he said no, that it was completely different. So then once that was, all the appeals were done, then we can take it to Connecticut State Court. And that's what we did. And we won.
So you went to the Zoning Board of Appeals, they upheld the
Yes.
zoning, and then you took them to court.
And then I took them to court. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I took them to court, and then the judge said exactly what we've been saying all along. You're already in the cannabis industry, because the only way that it is not cannabis is you have to dilute that cannabis with coconut oil to bring it down to below the 0.3 level. The plant is the same, the machinery is the same, the drying is the same, everything is the same. There is absolutely no different whatsoever.
You just have to keep processing to get hemp to make to get the level lower.
I have to mix it with coconut oil.
Dilute it. You have to
Because when it
dilute
comes out of my machine, I got 66 kilos right now.
Of cannabis, yeah.
Cannabis.
Right. So you have to dilute it with
Coconut oil.
to get the hemp that you're supposedly
To get the marijuana down below
to
the
hemp.
0.3
Right, so
THC content.
You're already processing it. You're
That's
already
right.
making it, and it's been
That's
that
right.
way.
So where you are now, you took them to court, the judge agreed with you?
Yes.
And said, yep, what you're doing should be grandfathered in, or a non-conforming.
Non-conforming, that's right.
Right.
He said it was non-conforming use. So what had happened now, the town has appealed the decision. And I'm sure nobody in town knows that I actually won the decision, and probably even less in town know that actually they appealed the decision on something that the town wanted. One, it was going to bring jobs in,
Correct.
especially to our young youth. Two, it was going to bring in a ton of revenues into the
Right.
town
Right.
on a clean industry. And the bottom line is they are acting with your money. And what I mean by that, in order for them, according to the rules that they said, that the town attorney has the right to appeal a court order with the approval of the Board of Selectmen. Well, there was never a vote. So with that being said, I decided when they started to ban books at the library that I was going to run for first selectman, and then that's where it goes.
Yeah, well, Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time
Yep.
to talk about it
Next
today,
time.
but I hope you will come back and
I
let
hope
us
so,
know how
yes.
things are progressing. It's a very interesting story.
I would love
But,
it.
but thank you.
Thank you.